Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're moving past those static anatomy charts.
Yeah, forget the textbook diagrams for a second.
We're looking at anatomical topography.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like the body's internal GPS and how it directly, sometimes surprisingly, explains real clinical situations.
Exactly. Our goal here is to connect the dots. How do things like anatomical planes or where a nerve runs or how an organ sits, how does that actually show up in a patient?
It's that bridge between the basic science and what you see in practice.
That's the mission.
Okay, let's start with the basics, the body's blueprint, those anatomical planes. We always talk about the transverse plane for CT scans, right? The cross sections.
Right, fundamental for CT. But our sources really emphasize the sagittal plane, especially for MRI.
The one that slices front to back down the middle. Why is that so critical?
Well, it's often the best, sometimes the only way to get a clear view of midline structures. Think the spinal cord itself. If you're looking for something like a serious herniated disc pressing on the cord,
You need that sagittal view.
you absolutely need it. It shows the compression directly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, another concept that really links structure to function is metameria. This idea of the body being segmented.
Ah, yes, segmentation. It's reflected in both sensation, the dermatomes, the skin areas linked to specific nerves and motor control, the myotomes, the muscle groups.
And this isn't just theoretical. You can see it clinically.
Oh, definitely. Take the C5 nerve root, for instance. It's classic. If that nerve root gets damaged, maybe from a disc issue,
What happens?
you get very specific symptoms. First, numbness or altered sensation right over the shoulder area. That's the C5 dermatome.
Okay.
And you also get weakness, specifically when trying to lift the arm out to the side abduction, because the main muscle doing that, the deltoid, is primarily C5 myotome.
So one nerve root injury gives you both sensory and motor signs, mapping perfectly.
Precisely. It's that functional link in action, helps pinpoint the lesion.
That C5 example is neat, very direct wiring, but sometimes the wiring gets crossed. Let's talk about referred pain. It can be really confusing.
It often is. And a prime example involves the diaphragm.
The big muscles separating the chest and abdomen.
Exactly. It's mainly innervated by the phrenic nerves. Now, here's the key thing. Where do the phrenic nerves actually start?
Not in the chest, right?
Not at all. They originate way up in the neck, from the C3, C4, and C5 spinal nerves.
Ah, okay. I see where this might be going.
So if something irritates the diaphragm, let's say blood from a ruptured spleen or maybe an abscess forming just underneath it.
The irritation signal travels up the phrenic nerve.
Correct. It goes up to the C3, C5 level in the spinal cord. But the brain, well, the brain gets confused. It's used to getting signals from C4, for example, as meaning pain from the skin over the shoulder.
Because that's the C4 dermatome.
Exactly. So instead of feeling pain deep inside the abdomen where the problem actually is, the person feels pain on the top of their shoulder.
That's referred pain. A glitch in the system's interpretation based on shared wiring.
Perfectly put. A glitch based on developmental anatomy. And speaking of the diaphragm's location, think about a hiatal hernia, the sliding type specifically.
Where the top of the stomach slides up into the chest.
Yes. That upward movement of the gastroesophageal junction is a purely mechanical, topographical reason for really severe acid reflux, GERD. The anatomy changes function.
Right. Okay. Let's shift focus slightly within the abdomen to the peritoneum, that lining membrane.
Ah, the peritoneum. Crucial divider. It basically sorts organs into two main categories based on how it covers them.
Intraperitoneal and retroperitoneal.
Correct. Intraperitoneal organs, think stomach, liver, spleen, are almost completely wrapped by it. They're suspended, which gives them mobility.
Mobility sounds good.
It allows function, yes, but it also means they can twist. A volvulus, or torsion, is a surgical emergency, and it happens because these organs are mobile within that peritoneal sac.
Okay, so that's the intraperitoneal group. What about the retroperitoneal ones? Kidneys, pancreas, aorta.
They sit behind the peritoneal cavity. They're only covered by peritoneum on their front surface, so they're fixed in place, much less mobile.
And that fixed position has clinical consequences too.
Absolutely. If you get bleeding back there, a retroperitoneal hematoma, or a deep infection, it's contained, but it can spread quite widely along that posterior wall. And critically, it's much harder to get to surgically, harder to drain. It's deep and fixed.
Location, location, location. It really matters. And fluid accumulation respects these boundaries too, right? We talk about ascites.
Which is fluid building up inside the peritoneal cavity, often from liver cirrhosis, for example.
But there are other crucial closed spaces where fluid is even more immediately dangerous.
Definitely. Like the pericardial cavity around the heart. If that fills with blood hemopericardi, it's an emergency.
Because it's a confined space.
Precisely. It highlights the danger of fluid accumulation in a space that can't easily expand.
So, wrapping up, we've seen how C5 nerve damage gives specific shoulder and arm issues, how diaphragm trouble can trick the brain into feeling shoulder pain, and how being inside or outside the peritoneum changes everything from mobility to how infections spread or are treated.
It all comes back to that anatomical map. Now, building on that last point about hemopericardi.
Yeah.
Think about why blood filling that pericardial sac is so dangerous. It's a closed space, relatively fixed. So for you listening, consider this. How does that rapid accumulation of fluid, blood in this case, physically prevent the heart muscle from relaxing and filling properly between beats? How does that simple mechanical restriction, because of the anatomy of that closed space, lead directly to the life-threatening condition we call cardiac tamponade?
Something to think about until our next deep dive.